Hi, welcome to Top Tips for Getting More Out of Your Camera, and this is episode 5 where we're going to talk about light and how to find light. It's one of the most important parts of photography, and it doesn't matter whether you're shooting on a camera or an iPhone. If you can find light and you can handle light, then you'll take your images from snapshots to something that really stands out on a page. These images are ones that I took last weekend of my little boy in our local woodland while we were on our walk, just in the bluebells. And the thing that was difficult here was handling the light. And so for all of the good shots that I took, there are plenty of ones where that was tricky and I didn't manage it so well. So I'm going to try and give you some top tips as to how to avoid some of the usual pitfalls. So avoiding direct sunlight. Like a good house plant, you probably don't want to put your subject right in the sun. Here are some images that I took just this morning while it was a little bit brighter of my little boy. He's standing on the front step here in direct sunlight, and you can see that the shadows are cast on his face in a really unflattering way. Direct sunlight never does anything great really for a subject. So one of the tips that I have is if you're shooting indoors, then make the most of doorway and window light. So all I've done in this shot is moved him back inside the hallway ever so slightly, and you can see that immediately it's gone from being a really harsh photograph in that direct sunlight to being much more gently lit and much more attractive to look at. So the first tip is always try and avoid direct sunlight, and maybe my second little mini tip there is make the most of window or doorway light. So you want them to be really well lit, but you just don't want to be in direct sunlight. So number 2, think about where the light's coming from, particularly important if you're shooting outside. So again, all these photographs I just took this morning in that sunlight there. So it's pretty intense, it wasn't completely directly overhead. It's really worth thinking about where the sun is when you're taking your photographs. So you can see here that my son was facing into that direct sunlight in these photographs. You can see the shadows are falling behind him, and it's a really intense light. These are not particularly flattering photographs. He's quite pale, so he's just really bleached out by the sun. So really avoid facing your subjects directly into the sun if they're not shaded, a bit like we did with the window light earlier on. So either move your subject underneath something to give them some shade, or alternatively just spin round. So all I've done here is literally taken a photograph from 180 degrees in the opposite direction. So I've put the sun behind him, and you can see now in these images that the sun is starting to give a little bit of that kind of halo effect. And so he's still nicely lit because it's a bright day, but he's not in that direct sunlight. And if you really can't avoid direct sunlight, then embrace it. So here he is sat in direct sunlight, playing on the floor, and it starts to cast some really nice shadows from the plants. So have some fun with it. If you're going to shoot in direct sunlight, then embrace it. So my final tip is aim for golden hour. And if you saw my Facebook Live on Thursday, you'll have seen I was doing that at golden hour. It's the hour immediately before sunset, and it's when the light is the most diffused. The sun is 6 degrees above the horizon, and it gives out on a clear day that beautiful, soft, warm glow. The images that you're seeing in front of you here are from a family shoot that I did at Golden Hour, one of our local parks, and all I did was made sure that the sun was behind my subjects, but that they were still reasonably well lit. So you want them to be somewhere that's quite open in front of them, because obviously at Golden Hour the sun is low, so there's less light around. So you really want to make sure you're facing into an open space and you've got that beautiful sun behind them. Try and get something to mask the sun a little bit, so it takes some of the intensity out if it's really, really bright. And what you're really looking for is this kind of halo type effect. And when you can create that, you can really create some beautiful shots, I think, that just stand out a little bit and really pop. And if I turned these guys round and faced the other way, all that would have happened is they'd have been really bleached out by that sunlight, and it would have been a pretty unflattering photograph. So look for where the sun is. Try and get your subjects into some type of shade so they've never got direct sunlight. Make sure the sun is behind them if you can, and wherever possible, try and shoot either very early in the morning or at that magical golden hour at the end of the day. And if you can do those 3 things, then I guarantee your images will go from being snapshots to really the kind of stuff that you want to put on the wall. I hope that's been helpful, and let me know what else you'd like me to cover. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.